Hi, I'm Christina, and today I'm going to talk about my reading statistics for 2021 and my reading goals for 2022. So this year my goal was to read 52 books. I haven't met that goal. I've read 40 books this year, but I'm still really pleased with that. I have read so many wonderful books this year, and talking about wonderful books, I am thinking about my favourite books of 2021, so I'm definitely going to be filming that video soon. So look out for my best books of 2021. There have been some absolutely brilliant books this year. So yes, I cannot wait to talk about them, but let's talk about the statistics first. Oh yes, my goal for 2022 is going to remain at 52 books, one book a week. That's something that I'd like to aim for. So going into 2022, 52 books. Now I have some numbers down here, so I might be looking down a little bit. So let's talk about genre first. So the majority of my reading this year has been thrillers. I've read 25% thrillers. Now, doesn't surprise me, it is still my favourite genre, but last year when I was looking back on 2020, I said my aim for 2021 was to read fewer thrillers and to read more different genres and just have a more varied kind of reading taste. And I have achieved that. So in 2020, I read 40% thrillers, and in 2021, it is now 25%. So it is still a majority over all of the genres, but I'm definitely having more options in what I'm reading. So I'm really pleased with that. So now let's look at all of the genres I've read this year. I have read 25% thriller, as I've just said, 25% contemporary, 15% science fiction, 15% mystery, 10% historical fiction, and then just a little fantasy and a little horror. So last year I said I would like to read more science fiction and more contemporary this year because some of my favourite books of 2020 fell into those genres. So I was like, yes, I need to read more of that because I obviously really like that genre. And I also wanted to start reading more historical fiction this year because it's a very new to me genre. And I've also achieved that. I've read, as I just said, 10% historical fiction. So that's a lot more for me. I don't think I read any last year, and before that, pretty much none. So yes, I've really been enjoying historical fiction. In fact, two of my contenders for favourite books of 2021 are historical fiction. And yeah, it's just been a really great genre for me this year. So I'm really pleased with that. So in terms of year of publication, I have been reading mainly brand new releases, and I'm really pleased with that. That was my goal for this year. I really wanted to focus on brand new books and just put the backlist books to a side for a little while. So 25% of my reading was books published in 2021 and 25% was books published in 2020. So a full 50% in books published in the current year and the previous year. So yeah, really pleased with that. And then the other 50% was books published between 2014 and 2019. So I've just been reading in the last 6 years or so. So yeah, very happy with that. So my goal for 2022 in terms of year of publication is just probably more of the same. I would like to dive into a few backlist books of some of the authors that I've really enjoyed this year, but mainly focusing on the newer releases. So yes, and in terms of genre, I didn't tell you my goal for 2022. It's just to continue on the same, to read a nice variety of different genres. I would rather not have a big 40% chunk of thrillers like I did in 2020. I'd much rather had 20, a much more varied kind of genre, because I find I really enjoy reading different types of books back to back. So this year I've made an effort to, if I've read a science fiction, to read a historical fiction, to read a thriller, just kind of mix it up a bit. I've just been finding that works really well for me, so I'm definitely going to continue on in that vein. So let's now talk about the authors. So 75% of the books I read have been written by female authors, and that is very, very skewed this year, and I think I know the reason why. I've been following the Women's Prize for Fiction for 2021 quite closely this year. I've been reading lots of those books, so I can see why it is skewed, and I think in 2022 that is also a prize that I will be following, so I am expecting that to remain a little bit skewed. But I don't mind so much. I have found some really wonderful books from that prize. I've definitely read some books that I absolutely would not have picked up. I didn't even know they existed before they were nominated for that. So that's something I'm definitely going to continue into 2022. I really like following some of the book prizes. I find it really interesting, and I think it's great when, you know, authors get that kind of recognition for something wonderful. So that's definitely something I am going to continue. So, still looking at the authors, I've added a new category this year. I thought it would be really good to track the nationality of the authors that I read. So this is the first time that I've been tracking this, and I'm thinking it's something I'm definitely going to continue because I think it's interesting, and I would definitely like to read more widely in terms of author. So I made the assumption that I would read mainly British authors and mainly American authors, and that has turned out to be right. So I've read 30% British authors and 30% American authors, so that is a majority, a full 60% from those two places. And then I've read 10% Irish authors, 7% Australian authors, and 5% Canadian authors. And then I've also read books by people from Sweden, Nigeria, Vietnam, Japan, Italy, China, and Cyprus. So I am pleased with that, but that's definitely something I want to focus more on next year. So I'd like to kind of have a better spread of the world. So if I kind of had the world map in front of me, I'd like to be hitting more places all over the place. So yeah, I mean, you could break it down even further and look into the States in America and look into the parts of Britain. But I think for now, I am going to keep it more, big picture rather than really breaking it down too far. I might start breaking Britain up into Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales. We will see, because I am British after all, so they're probably the books I'm most likely to be drawn to. They're the most accessible, they're the ones that are probably going to be in my libraries. So yeah, I found that really, really interesting, and it's really nice to see that I am reading authors from different places now. So that's really good. I'm really pleased with that, but obviously I can improve upon that. So for 2022, I would like to add 2 more categories in terms of the author. I would like to look at whether the book is a new to me author or whether it is an author that I've read before. I think that would be interesting to kind of break that down. And then I'd also like to track whether the book is a debut novel by a brand new author or, whether it's by an established author, because I think that would also be something that's interesting, because I would like to focus on reading some more debut novels. And on the flip side, I would also like to focus on reading some more books by authors that I absolutely love and just read more by them. So I think that will help me achieve both of those goals. So also, now moving on to audience, I have read over 90% of my reading is audience adult. And I expected that, and then the other 10% is young adult. And I think the older I'm getting, the less drawn I am towards young adults. There's still a few that I have read that I've enjoyed, and there's still a few going into 2022 that I would like to read, but I think the vast majority of my reading is, and probably always will be now, adult. And that has just been a shift I've seen over the years as obviously I've got older myself. So yes, that's that one. So another new statistic that I've decided to track this year is LGBTQIA plus representation. So for this, I've looked at representation within the book itself as opposed to looking at the author who has written the book. And that's because I know lots of people don't necessarily put that information out into the world, so I thought that would be more difficult to track. But perhaps for 2022, that is something that I would like to track, both of those two. But for this year, I've just tracked representation within the book. And I have only included those which have a main protagonist and a main character, as opposed to just a side character or, a character that isn't as involved within the story. So yes, I focus on a protagonist, a main character, because I thought that would give a more accurate representation rather than just any character at all. So I hope that all makes sense. So 25% of my reading does have that representation, and I have read some really excellent books. So I think when Pride Month comes around in Britain, I'm going to pull together all my favourite books with LGBTQIA plus representation. I mean, I don't have to wait till then, but I think it ties in quite nicely. So yes, I'm obviously going to be looking at the books I've read this year because I've actually tracked it, and I haven't done that in previous years, so I'm going to be relying on my memory, which isn't going to be as good, obviously. So it will be mainly focused on 2021, and then the ones that are like big standout favourites from previous years, and I probably have forgotten a lot of the other books, if I'm being honest. So I'm glad I'm tracking it all, because when you read a lot of books, after a while you blur things together. So yes, that is that statistic. So another category that I have tracked, which is becoming less and less relevant year after year, is whether a book is a standalone or part of a series. So over 90% of the books I've read are standalones. I don't really read many series anymore. I'm not particularly drawn to them. I've had quite a few on the go, and if I'm being honest with myself, I think most of them are abandoned at this stage because it's unlikely I will go back to them now. So I have read 3 books in series. I have read The Thursday Murder Club, which I absolutely loved. I cannot wait for the second book. My boyfriend bought it for me for Christmas, so that will be read in 2022. So I also read A Small Way to a Long Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, and honestly, I thought it was good, it was okay, but I don't see myself continuing with that series, so for now, that's abandoned. And the other one that I read this year was Thunderhead, and I'm definitely going to be reading this whole in 2022, so that's just 2 series that I wish to continue with at this time. So yes, I think going forwards, I am mainly a standalone reader. I know that about myself. So yes, that is where we're at with that. Mainly standalones, probably always will be going forwards now. So I can probably discard with that category for 2022. I'm probably not going to continue tracking that, if I'm being honest. So now let's move on to the best bit, the star ratings. So I've read a majority of books that I've rated 3 stars, which is a little bit disappointing, and I see truth in that. I have read good books, sometimes average books, and I feel like the majority of my reading this year has been good. Average. Okay, I've enjoyed it, but it hasn't been anything special. So in 2022, I would love it if I had more 4-star reads, more 5-star reads. But I mean, you don't always know, do you? You really don't know. Also, maybe I should be a little bit less stingy. Who knows? Maybe I'm being a little bit tight. Possibly, but it feels true that it's been quite an average reading year. But saying that, there has been some absolutely excellent standout books that are wonderful and potentially new favourite books of all time. So I have had 25% of my reading has been 5-star reads. That's pretty great, actually. That is an entire quarter of the books I've read have been wonderful books. So I am happy with that. I'm really tough with that, obviously. And then I've got 15% of the books I've read have been 4-star, and then I've had just 15% 2-star, no 1-stars. I have been much better at DNFing this year, and I'm really proud of that, actually, because life is way too short to read a book that you aren't enjoying. There just aren't enough hours in the day. So yes, I'm really pleased with that. My 2-star, only 15%, and no 1-stars. I've had quite a lot of DNFs this year. Going into 2022, I'm going to keep track of every single book I DNF, and I'm going to write down why, like just a general why, and also the percentage of the book of which I put it down, because I think that would be interesting. I started doing it this year in 2021, and I made a video of all the books I DNF recently a couple of months ago, and I went into depth. So if you love rant reviews, I've got an entire video where I just rant about everything I do not like in these books. So I will leave that down below just in case you're interested and you like rant reviews. It's a whole collection of I hate this book and why. So yeah, I think going into next year, it'd be nice to keep track of them. And also, I think it'll help me see what I do and do not like in books. If I can have it right in front of me, be like, oh, this isn't a trope that I like. This isn't something, you know, that I enjoy. And also, it'll be good to think, yes, I've definitely tried to read that and I didn't like it, rather than like 5 years down the line being like, oh, I don't remember. Like, I don't know. So yeah, I think that would be something that will be interesting to track and just, you know, keep a record of every book I didn't like too. So that's it. That's all my reading statistics for 2021 and all my reading goals for 2022. I would love to hear some of your statistics down in the comments below. I absolutely love statistics, so definitely tell me anything at all about that. I'd love to know. So thank you so much for watching. Please like the video if you liked it, and please subscribe if you'd like to see more of me talking about books. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.